This is Expertcourse. Introduction. The most effective way to connect to your reader is to connect to them personally, and that's what the Imagine Statement does. With the Imagine Statement, you create a hypothetical scenario where you draw the reader in and make them feel personally connected to the topic that you are about to write about. So with my example, we are writing about a person's capability to commit murder. So let's take a look at my Imagine Statement to draw the reader in. My introduction starts with this. Imagine standing next to a news reporter in the middle of a desolate field. Your hands are shaking. You aren't quite sure how you got here. Then the reporter asks the question, what might have caused someone so close to you to want to commit murder? Scared, you'd probably say something like, I can't believe it. I never could have imagined this person as being capable of doing such a thing. Now this hook is very effective on a couple of levels. First and foremost, like I've already said, it connects to the reader personally. And also, it really paints a vivid picture. There's dialogue going on, there's imagery here. It's really setting up an engaging beginning to the essay. And that's the purpose of the Imagine Statement. You want to hook your reader from the very beginning. So with your next essay, I highly recommend trying to use the Imagine Statement because this will get the ball rolling in a much more engaging way, and I feel like it will really draw your reader in. The next step is your background. Remember what I said earlier in the first video. You have to treat the reader as king. You have to treat your reader with the utmost respect, and you have to give your reader everything that he or she may need to be fully invested in what you have to say about the topic at hand. So there are a few ways you can approach your background. You can provide a brief synopsis of the story if your essay is focused on a piece of literature. Make sure that you include the important plot elements that surround the focus of your writing. Make sure you introduce concepts or ideas that might not be common knowledge that you plan on addressing in the rest of your piece. For instance, if you're going to talk about something like rhetoric, that's something that not a lot of people in the general population will have a grasp on. So make sure that you really define what rhetoric is and why it's so important. It's so important that you don't have any surprises that come up later in your essay. Whatever you plan on talking about in the rest of your essay, it's got to be included somewhere in your introduction, and the background is the perfect place to do it. Don't leave your reader with any surprises. Something you can also do in your background is talk about the importance of your topic. Why is it so important that your reader reads this? Why is it so important to society that we talk about this topic at hand? Make it relevant, make it real world. Now let's take a look at the background approach that I took. It starts with the first line of blue text. This is usually the common response. If one were to turn on the news at any given moment, chances are he or she would easily find someone being interviewed for a similar act of violence, providing the same exact kind of answer. People are never able to comprehend the idea of their loved ones doing something as heinous as taking someone's life. But the bottom line is, murder is quite common. This act of violence is prevalent in all parts of the world and occurs every single day by people who have families, friends, and what most people would argue as good lives. For one to claim that he or she never could have imagined this person as being capable of murder is simply impossible and actually quite detrimental to society. If someone just assumes that everyone they love could not possibly be capable of having troubling or disturbing thoughts, how might they be able to prevent something like murder from happening? No matter how polite, professional, affable, or likable a person may be, it doesn't rule out the possibility of he or she suddenly having a change of heart and acting on their disturbing impulses. So in my background, the approach that I took was talking about why it's so important that we talk about this idea of people being capable of murder. People that you would never expect to be capable of it. Why? Because if we don't accept that fact, it could be detrimental to society. What if you have to step in and help this person? and rather you just think of them as, no, they would never be able to think about these crazy things like that. That's just not who they are. If you think that way about them, then you're not helping them anyway whatsoever. So I talk about the importance of why this topic is so significant, and I think that's a great approach to writing your background. Last, but definitely not least, is your thesis statement. This is probably the most important part of your introduction, because this is where you say what your essay is about and where you stand. This is where you finally introduce your real voice into your essay. Now, a lot of students like to use things like I personally believe, or I personally think, or in my opinion. Gotta get rid of it. This is the kind of thing that makes writing dull. This is the kind of thing that makes writing formulaic. This is the kind of thing that makes readers and teachers hate reading essays. You've got to be able to get to the point and get to it quick, because I want to keep reading and I want to see what you have to say. So if you look at my example, you'll see I don't use any kind of these elementary sentence starters. Let's take a look. For my thesis statement, I say, no matter how clean a person's record or reputation may be, the truth is, under particular circumstances, anyone is capable of committing murder. Nobody can predict exactly what's going to happen in a person's lifetime, or what path he or she may follow in the future due to certain experiences. So look at that. I get right to the point. I don't say anything like in my personal belief or blah, blah, blah. I get straight to the point. I trim the fat and I give my reasons why I think the way I do. So now the essay is finally getting started and I'm not wasting any of my readers' time. So now that you have written an effective introduction, it's now time to jump into your first body paragraph, where you address your very first point.